Hey, I'm Gina. Welcome to the Oh, There's More podcast, a space to get real and go deep. No more just checking the boxes and going through the motions. It's time to live out the beautiful life that God has written for you. In this episode, we'll talk about what grief actually is and how you may need to walk through some grieving. Grief. It's kind of one of those things that we shove under the rug, but addressing it has been really powerful in my healing journey. And so this is a must to share with you all. People think that it's only the really big things, like the death of someone that you love. And while that definitely falls into the category of grief, there are other places that we can actually experience it. Grief can come in any place where we experience a change that we didn't want. So just think about that for a minute. How many ways can we encounter grief? A move, a job loss, a change in friendships. There are actually a lot of ways. And how often do we minimize those things that impact us and say things like, oh, others have it worse, or I just need to get over it. Now, hear me, I'm not saying that we need to stay there in this grief and just be a sad mess all the time. But what I am saying is that we have to acknowledge it. So I spent some time with an amazing mentor of mine, Carrie Scott Garcia. I went through a couple parts of her Freedom Academy. And in level 1, I remember her telling us that she highly recommended us having a grief journal alongside our gratitude journal. And thankfully, it was online because I'm pretty sure that I rolled my eyes and thought to myself, no, I'm not giving glory to grief. Are you kidding me? I've worked really stinking hard to be positive, and this sounds like focusing on the negative, and I don't want any part of that. But then a couple months later, something happened, and it was like this thing just snuck up on me out of nowhere. So my best friend and I had both happened to move from one city to another area around the same time in the fall of 2022. And we ended up within about 30 minutes of each other in this new area. But we were no longer a part of this church plant together, which meant this big chunk of time and part of our lives that had intersected previously was now gone. Our lives looked really, really different in this new place. And during that same time, God had me pull back from a couple of ministries that I was serving in. One was having their annual event that naturally I was going to be at, just like the last couple of years, right? But as I mentioned, God had different plans. He told me that I was to stay at home during this event. It made zero sense to me. And to top it off, my best friend had gone through all of these things that I'm not going to get into, but she was finally in this place where she could share about where God had her and her family. And she was sharing at this event, of course. And I didn't get to be there in the room cheering her on. My heart was so sad. I spent the first day really feeling down, like I just couldn't understand fully why I didn't get to be there and to be present. I trusted God, and when He spoke, I listened, but there was something about this that felt different. And so as I always do, I started to just talk to God and ask Him to help me understand what was going on. Without me even realizing it, He walked me through the whole process of identifying what was going on and grieving it. I'm a journaler, and so I wrote down what I was grieving, and then I listed the emotions that I was feeling. I identified the lie that I was believing around this whole situation, and then I asked God to replace that lie with His truth. It was incredible. I felt the literal weight lift off, even though, get this, not a single thing about the situation had changed. I'm still at home while all of my people are at this event. And when I say all my people, I mean all of my people. I was immersed with these people for the previous several years of my life. All of the people from the church plant I was part of were also part of this ministry. And some of them I only got to see during these events. I was still going in a different direction than my best friend, which meant little to no time together. So literally nothing changed in my circumstances, except for the fact that I was able to identify what I was thinking and feeling. I was able to grieve the loss of what this really important relationship looked like. Nothing bad had happened. We just got called to different things, and God led us in different directions. And on the surface, I didn't really think that that was something affecting me or that I needed to be sad about it. Like, this is just life, right? God called, we answered, here we are. So in my mind, it didn't fit into the category of something bad. So why would I need to grieve it, right? Why would I need to grieve something that is supposed to be good? The lightness that I felt had me sold on this whole grief journal thing. So Carrie, if you're listening, I'm just going to say it. You were right. I was wrong. You were right. And listen, I won't go deep into all of this. I didn't set out to become an expert in these areas, like I've mentioned. And I can put you right back to Carrie and Freedom Movement, and they can deep dive with you. But I just want to open this door and let you take a look into these places and just start to get curious. What areas of your life do you feel disappointment or sadness about? What in your life do you need to grieve the loss of, no matter how small it feels to you? I'm going to encourage you to go through that process and grieve the thing that you feel like is stuck there in a place of sadness. Now, in this process, God actually had me create a grief journal, and you can find that on my website. There are digital versions of it, so you can print it out yourself, or I actually just published a physical copy, and that is titled Processing with God. But let's talk through what it looks like really quick, because you can absolutely do this on your own with your own journal, or wherever you want to take note of things. If you're a digital person, you can just do this right in the notes of your phone even. So the first thing that you want to do is just ask God, what is it that I'm grieving right now? When you're feeling that heaviness or that sadness and it's related to a situation, begin to get curious with Him. And as you do, God will reveal what it is. The next thing that you want to do is identify the emotions that you're feeling along with that. And that can be hard. It can be hard to pinpoint beyond, I feel sad right now. I feel angry right now. And that is why I created an entire list of emotions that can be found in either versions of my grief journal. But you can also just find a copy of the emotions themselves for free on my website. I want to give you guys as many tools as I possibly can, because healing is such a needed thing. And that list of emotions is helpful because it helps you really pinpoint that, oh, this isn't just anger. This is something much deeper. You know something is there, and you can go through that list and pick out different emotions that fit. Oftentimes, it's not just one thing. You can feel disappointment and sadness and loneliness all at the same time. And the next thing you want to do is just ask God about the situation. Ask Him, what is it that you're believing that's not actually true? And when I say ask God, I'm literally saying, God, show me what I'm believing that is not true. And then I'll begin to journal as things come to mind. God will reveal them as you sit in that space and invite Him in. It's absolutely amazing. And the last thing that you want to do is ask God to replace the lie that you're believing with what He says, with what His truth is. One of the lies that I was believing was that He was a God who was just looking down on me like, ha ha ha, you thought you had this and now you don't. I mean, come on, that's not God. He is not sitting up there looking down on me saying, ha, you thought you had someone in your corner and now you don't. Nanner, nanner. Like, that's not our God. And I didn't even realize that that's what I was thinking or feeling until I sat down and went through this process. So replacing the lies helps remind us of who God is and what it is that's actually true about the situation. It's an absolutely amazing process. So I want to encourage you to just try it out. Try those 4 steps. Identify what you're grieving. Second is identify your emotions. Third is to identify the lie that you're believing. And fourth is to ask God to replace it with his truth. And I'm telling you, this is going to make such a difference for you. There can be lies that we don't even know are sitting around inside our pretty little heads. And when God helps us to dig those things out, it gives us this view that I can't even quite put into words, but there is such a freedom and a lightness that comes with it. And goodness, I just want everybody to be able to experience that too. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, leave a rating or review, and share it with your people. You can go to my website, ginapeak.com, to find extra resources and info. Until next time.